Great. Thank you, Scott. And it's an honor to be here this morning to kick off day 3 of Audience Time Science. It's already been an exciting couple of days with some great conversation and some great content. And I actually think the format is working pretty well, surprisingly well, almost like we're in our own personal conference, yet connected with everyone. So congratulations to you and the ARF team for pulling this off. I'm hosting a virtual fireside chat with Reid Cundiff, the CEO of Kantar North America. There you are, Reid, where he leads one of the largest insights agencies in North America. Prior to Kantar, Reid served as general manager of Microsoft's customer and market research team, also one of the largest, but this time client-side research organizations in the world. Across his years of experience, he spearheaded the evolution of the insights discipline in a number of ways and is a recognized leader in digital transformation. So welcome, Reid.
Thanks, Marianne. It's great to be a part of the event, and it's great to see you.
Excellent, great to see you. How are things out in Seattle there?
Thankfully, at least in our area, not quite as smoky as they were a week or so ago. Fall has arrived, so we have about 9 months of rain ahead of us.
Oh, okay, something to look, but no smoke. That's good. That's good. So what I'd really like to start with, over the last few days at the conference, we've been hearing a lot about the massive disruption of our industry, how, and everything that's going on and the impact it's having on consumer behavior and media and marketing and brands. And it's a time of change and transformation unlike anything I think we've ever seen before, ever experienced. And I think from your perspective, leading one of the largest insights organizations, as well as also having led one of the largest client-side organizations, we'd just like to hear your high-level perspective to get started in the conversation.
Sure. Well, so one of the things I know you and I have talked about is that most times market disruptions don't necessarily create new trends. In the main, they accelerate growth of existing or emerging trends. And I feel like we're seeing that at every turn. Even just the usage of a platform like we're using right now is a perfect example of that, and the level of comfort and ease with which we can have that kind of conversation. But specifically within our industry, I think for the last few years, you talked about digital transformation. We've seen a huge transformation in the way we develop and land insights. And we still see increasing volume and variety of data and evolution of analytic techniques. To me, that made the insights industry incredibly dynamic and continues to do so. Essentially, like the raw materials and process of our work remain in really significant transition. And now in the last 6 months, what I think we've seen is that in fact, human behavior and perceptions are being disrupted and changing in a variety of ways. So essentially now where the process of our work was already in transition, now the focus or object of our work is changing more dynamically than I think we've seen over the course of our careers. And then when you add to that the opportunity or imperative that we have as insights professionals and teams to help and drive business strategy and success in this disrupted time becomes more important than ever. So from the way in which we do our work, to the nature of what we're investigating, to the support that we in fact need to provide to our internal and external stakeholders, all of that is shifting. And so to me, that is a really interesting opportunity, especially when you get the chance to be able to work with a lot of the world's top brands. Because what we know from decades of brand Z analysis, that great brands use market disruptions to gain share and position themselves for rapid growth when business as usual returns. And to me, I think the opportunity that we all have is that this doesn't just naturally happen. So in this kind of disruption, insights professionals can really help their businesses understand people and inspire growth in a variety of new ways. And they say the person doesn't pick the time picks the person. Well, I feel like in this case, the time is picking the function or capability, and the function is us.
exactly. The spotlight's on us. Talk to me a little bit more about digital transformation in our industry, because that can mean different things to different people. I'd love to just hear a little more of your perspective on that.
So to me, just in as straightforward a way as possible, I feel like digital transformation involves changing the volume and variety of data we bring into our insights supply chain. It is changing, essentially, if we continue that factory metaphor, it changes the environment, the shop floor in which we do our work, so the analytic techniques that we use. And then what I think is increasingly gaining steam is it changes the way we land insights with our internal and external stakeholders. So it is moving beyond the static 45-minute presentation with a PowerPoint deck associated with it. So to me, digital transformation at its most basic forms involves the raw materials that we bring in as they change, the way in which we analyze information, and then how we deliver it for impact.
Okay, great. So it's the digital aspect and the human connection to it as well in your definition. Perfect. So that's a great big entry, and there's all kinds of places I can go. Clearly, there's tons of challenges and opportunities for our industry that evolve from this. Why don't you start with the challenges first? What are the challenges that you really see that we face as an industry and as insights people?
Sure. Well, so of course, I think the first place that my mind goes to, and what I think probably a lot of us feel like, is in a global market disruption that we're going through right now, then like resources and budget are the first thing that come to mind for a lot of us. And it's naturally a real challenge with businesses who are working hard to maintain healthy levels of profitability, no question. But honestly, that's not what I would call out, as we'll always have to demonstrate ROI for the work that we do. The bigger challenge to me that we've seen across some of our clients is that kind of turtle mindset that we've seen some companies and leaders adopt, choosing to rely on past history or gut feel or rules of thumb, rather than going out into the market and exploring the reality of what's going on with today's customers and today's market environment. So I think that, to me, is one of the biggest challenges, is getting people out of that turtle mode, that fear mindset, and really saying now is a fantastic opportunity to be able to get a new sense of what's going on with our fans, what's going on with our broad customer base, what's really changing in the market. So within our discipline, I still feel like we have pretty pervasive ongoing challenges with siloed functions and data. I'm surprised with how frequently I run across client requests or even internal solutions at Kantar that focus on an either or and not an and, whether that's perception plus behavior, whether that's qual plus quant, whether that's data science plus market research. I feel like in disrupted times like these, we need as well-rounded a view of a market, a customer, or even a competitor as we can possibly generate. And that well-rounded picture rarely comes from a single data type or an analytic approach. So I think those, both in terms of what we're looking at and how we're trying to help our clients and stakeholders, as well as how we're conceptualizing the answer, are two of the bigger challenges I think I run across.
Interesting. So that's really an element of or an advantage of disruption, is it actually breaking down the silos and bringing things together. And as insights professionals, we can really help make that happen.
For sure.
So on the flip side, opportunities, what kind of opportunities do you see all this world craziness impacting for us or opening up for us?
Well, so I think I touched on it in the challenges. Is, to me, now is both an interesting and, in fact, a necessary time to be spending the energy and resources understanding shifts in market and people. Now is not the time to cower, to duck and cover, or try and coast through things. And I feel like we have plenty of examples that we see of where we need to get market understanding, and especially for the clients that we work with, for them to get to action, there's a deeper level of market understanding that they need around any variety of topics. So like we've seen, you know, certainly something that's not new news to this audience, but the economic environment that we're in is driving a reduction in spending overall, but it's not equally balanced across categories. So it's well-trodden ground. I'm not going to belabor it. But when you think about the differences between, say, how travel and experiences are performing relative to home entertainment and nesting, right? That's where understanding where those pockets of growth are coming from is something that requires a level of focus and precision. And I think there's an opportunity to be able to shine a light on where there is gold in specific hills.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you're saying it's an opportunity really for our industry and for us as insights people to step up more than ever before. And I love one of those analogies Walker Smith gives about during this pandemic, what researchers came out of the, like firemen got called, to the blaze to, jump in and handle it. And, just really firefighting in the middle of the fire. And now it's time for us to either, people could just go back into the firehouse, or they could really lead into the future for our industry. So it sounds like in that camp.
Well, yeah, especially when you see the interesting changes in consumer behavior, right? Like one of the things, Marianne, I know you and I have talked about before is the openness that people have shown in the last 6 months to have new brand experiences.
Exactly.
Just under half of all the consumers that we talk to have tried a different brand in the last 3 months that they plan to continue to buy. And we haven't seen numbers like that since we've started tracking. So,
yeah, exactly.
that to me is says there are pockets of opportunity that we need to mine and explore.
Right, exactly. I'd like to flip the conversation a little bit to what's going on in our world in terms of inclusion and diversity and social justice and connectedness, and get your perspective on that and what that means for our industry in this transformation as well.
I appreciate the opportunity to comment. So personally, as I know, I'm consider myself an amateur historian. And I've always felt like the social history of the United States, at least, is the meandering path we've taken to have the inspiring concepts and words in our founding documents about things like natural human rights match the day-to-day lives of all of our citizens. And so to me, the social justice movements and activity we've seen over the last several months have been really effective in leading to a greater percentage of the population now aware of these issues, agreeing, in fact, with the need for change broadly. And now the hardest part is working to figure out the right next ways to get to action. And so then if we apply that to our function, to our industry, I feel like we can participate in any number of pretty unique and important ways. To me, of course, it starts with diversity in our own employee base. And I certainly acknowledge that Kantar has an ongoing opportunity to both have a more diverse employee base from a representation standpoint, and to create a culture in which diversity of thought is both the right thing to do and recognize that it will make our work with our clients that much stronger. But,
absolutely.
But beyond that, if you don't mind, I feel like from fundamentals like appropriate representation and inclusion of consumers in our data who are traditionally not counted, to understanding genuinely different experiences that form the lives of our customers, to business opportunities that abound in underserved communities and audiences, to how we tailor our messages in real and meaningful ways to different groups of people. These are all different ways that we can enable voices to be heard. And that's challenging. And it's also sets up some interesting choices for the brands that we support. I know we've done research that demonstrates that different categories and brands within categories have different levels of participation in social justice causes. And for years now, we've seen this upward trend of an increasing percentage of consumers are unwilling to have brands they support simply sit on the sidelines, right? And what we've also seen is that there are two main reasons that give a consumer a perception of whether or not they agree or disagree with a brand participating in social justice. Number one is how close that brand is to the specific cause that they're supporting and the pre-existing perception of the consumer.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's really important for brands to understand the mindset of their core fans as they get more and more engaged in social justice, because sitting on the sidelines is no longer an option.
Yeah.
So for me, what it gets down to is our business is understanding people, shedding light on markets, opportunities, and people who might have previously been in the shadows. So that glow can both illuminate and provide heat to transform minds and business strategy and communities. And so it's my hope that we can do exactly that. So
Excellent.
I apologize if you caught me monologuing, but this is something that's pretty important to me.
Well, I know it's a really important inspiration for you, and thank you. And boy, I can't believe how fast the time goes. They're like starting to flash the button. We only have 1 more minute, Reed. So I think what I'm going to ask you is, just given your experience and what all you're seeing, are there any words of wisdom? The audience here, we've got, marketers, advertising agencies, research agencies, just any word of wisdom for us from your background, learning, etc.
I will try, and I will also try and make it quick too.
Okay.
This is a really broad audience with honestly, some impressive accomplishments, but I'll give it a try. Honestly, the first thing for me is to know yourself. I've spent a lot of time developing my own personal philosophy, which is be genuine, be precise, prioritize action, and speak truth to power. That philosophy comes from a pretty deep place, and I try and let that guide me, especially when I'm feeling uncertainty, ambiguity, pressure, like we're all feeling these days. The second thing is figure out how you can demonstrate agility at every turn. Right? Every concentric circle around us is in a state of flux. And relying on what we learned in graduate school or how we conducted business over the course of the first 10 years of our career, or what pre-COVID rules of thumb are, that's not going to get us through the next year. So look forward and don't try and play last year's game. And the last thing, honestly, is that we all need to stay in balance. With most of us still working from home, boundaries are hard. I find it always way too easy to spend 1 more hour at the computer, handle 1 more email or 1 more call. Making sure you have equally compelling things to do outside of work is just as important to the quality of work that you then deliver. So, and lastly, I would say, stay safe and healthy.
Exactly. Great. Well, thank you, Reed. And we'll all work on our balance and those great parting words you gave us. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your perspective today.
Thanks, Marianne.
Thank you, Reed, and thank you, Marianne. And Reed, it's really great to welcome you to the ARF stage for the first time. And good luck in the position. So.